And you're live.
Hey, we're live.
Are we live?
Yeah, we are. This is
You are live.
going to be. Yeah.
Are we live? Is it on?
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself, Richard, or shall I introduce myself first?
Okie doke. Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Swan, the author of The Justice of Kings. Do not have it behind me, which I should have done. Oh, this is very good thinking, RJ. I wrote The Justice of Kings for my sins. It is 6 a.m. in Australia, so I'm not firing on all cylinders at the moment. And with me is my Orbit brother, RJ, who's now going to introduce himself.
I am. Yeah, I'm RJ Barker. I'm the author of The Bone Ships, which the 3 books are here. I didn't do it specially, Richard. I just keep them there all the time, just in case I happen to be on.
Preserved in a jar.
Yeah. And we won the with Orbit. We won the British Fantasy Robert Holstock Award for the Bone Ships, which we're very, very proud of. And before that, I wrote the Wounded Kingdom trilogy, which are basically murder mysteries, sort of Agatha Christie-ish things, and they're Age of Assassins, Blood of Assassins, and King of Assassins. And now I'm writing a new thing and here talking to Richard because I get to be on the front of his book, which I was very pleased with.
Yes, that was very kind of you to say. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
I really appreciated that.
It's true. I was gonna. I said they judge it up a bit, don't you? You contact Orbit and say, "It's
sure.
all right, 2 stars," and they said, "Can we print a stunning example of modern fantasy writing?" All right then. Well,
I didn't actually enjoy the book that much, but you can say that if you like. Yeah.
I did enjoy it, and one of the things that I enjoyed it, and I was cross with it because as I was reading it, I thought, Richard's used the circuit courts. What a brilliant way of doing it, and that's in my ideas book. So
say that again. The circuit course.
Yeah, the courts used to move around England.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Courts.
Circuit.
I thought you said course. Like, has it been some kind of writing course? I was like, I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And
it was.
Oh, go on.
It was annoying because you've done it really well, so I just had to scratch it out of my ideas book. So,
that's right. Yeah. I think that's one of the big perils of writing, isn't it? I once had this idea. I really like this idea. It was basically like a sort of science fiction Heart of Darkness set in a post-apocalyptic UK on a train that was basically running up the East Coast main line. And you had these aliens that had invaded the Earth, and their whole deal was that they ate minds. So, like, if you got close by, your mind would start to kind of decay and degrade. And then you would die. And anyway, I had this idea. I was getting so into it. I was like, "Oh, what a fantastic idea!" And this was only a couple of months ago. And then I read China Miéville's Perdido Street Station, which features a race of aliens that eat minds. And I was like, "Fucking great!" And I abandoned it straight away.
China.
And now I hate reading science fiction and fantasy. Just picking off my ideas one by one, like some kind of literary sniper.
But we should say to people, it's very important that it's not the idea; it's your execution of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
so feel free to nick whatever you want off anybody if you're a
Thanks. I was thinking of writing a novel about dragon-boned warships.
Do it.
Do you have any thoughts on that? I thought it was pretty unique.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm done with them now. So
yeah, they're out of the world.
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from? I mean, we're doing specific to crime and fantasy, but I'm very interested to know about the Bone Ships. Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
I love Patrick O'Brien's Aubrey Maturin books. I absolutely adore them, and I kind of always generally start fantasy with what if our world but missing this thing, and I took wood away, and then kind of and the scrimshaw and stuff like that. They were really to bones.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is Gion and Varisk? Is it some kind of sturdy plant like arcane and bamboo or like woven
Yeah,
leaves?
I thought them as like massive ferns that they
Right,
just grow
yeah,
really,
okay.
really quickly. And I'm one of the I can't remember now because I'm halfway through a second book in something completely different. So my mind is
Right.
just like, oh, that's all junk. It's gone now. I need something new.
Clear out the dead wood.
One of
Clear out the dead
one of
Gordon
them's
Paris.
one of them's like a vine and one of them's like a massive fern, and that was
Right.
the idea.
Oh, I see.
I wanted to know, after reading Justice of Kings, are you a fan of C.J. Sansom
Yes.
and his Matthew Shardlake books?
Funnily enough, I also a fan of Patrick O'Brien, by the way. I'm up to about Desolation Island, which is only about the fifth or sixth one.
Yeah.
But yes, I do like C.J. Sansom. I got through about 3 or 4 of them, I think. I read the one that was basically 7, but in Tudor England. So 7 the movie, rather, and then I felt like I'd taken as much from that series as I was going to. And then they just kept. Sorry, they're very good books. I'm not here to criticize anything, but they kept getting bigger and bigger. Every book extended by 100 pages until I got about 700 pages. I was like, oh God, I don't have time for this. I'm not a large book writer.
There's a real sense of sort of impending doom in C.J. Sansom. You think everything's going to go wrong, and I could feel that in Justice of Kings. That kind of
think, yeah.
They're trying to do the right thing, but it's not gonna end well for them.
It is
going to bad places. Not giving away too much.
No, well, I mean, to be fair, the first paragraph is basically says the empire collapses, so it's coming. I quite like that. I'm a big fan of the kind of sort of dramatic irony and foreshadowing as literary tools. If I might be overselling it a bit. Go on.
How much of your because Richard's a lawyer in his other life. How much of that have you brought into Vomvolt and those characters?
Certainly in the first one, a fair bit. I didn't want to overburden the narrative with loads of technical stuff, but at the same time, I thought it's kind of what makes the book unique. So if I can weave some of it in an interesting way, I will. So the traveling judge, the magistrate, with the power to dispense with arguments, and the procedure is pretty much identical to English common law. So if you want to watch the trial scene, the court scene at the end is something I've done many times myself. So, but I was more interested as well in talking about the sort of the philosophy of it as well. So the jurisprudence aspect. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of. Are you hearing that as well? I'm getting feedback from my own microphone. So I can hear my own voice in my ears. Are you getting that, or is that just me? Oh, well,
I think it might just be you because I've got headphones on. So sometimes it's through my somebody else's speakers.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
No.
Maybe if I.
Probably because you're coming all the way from Australia.
That's right. It was. If I pray, that makes no difference. Does make a difference. Can you still hear me if I do that?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. This is what people have come to see.
Anyway, so probably should have done that before we logged on. So I wanted to. There's some really fascinating, legal philosophy, which sounds like it's not true, but it is. And if you get into the nuts and bolts of it, so deontologism versus consequentialism, the idea of does the end justify the means, or can you do something as an end in itself? So deontologism is the idea that the rules are the important thing, and we have to stick to the rules. So you must never kill anybody. And consequentialism more looks at the consequences of your actions. So if you kill someone, are you actually creating a better society afterwards? And you see it all the time in movies at the moment, don't you? Like you'll get characters like Captain America. He won't kill anybody under any circumstances. It's very frustrating. Or who else is a good example? The other one I gave was
got the lawyer here going, kill more people.
Kill the people. Yeah, I'm still just a man. And what's the other one? It was Frodo, he won't kill Gollum, even though he's obviously planning to murder them. Or other things like that. And you also watch these things and you think, why don't they just kill them? They should. And so then you kind of examine, well, why don't they just kill them? What is the thing that's stopping them? Is it the law, or is it there's some broader, what we call the natural law, which is the idea that certain things are right or wrong, irrespective of man-made laws, and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to kind of weave that into narrative.
How far are we? Is it a trilogy? It's a trilogy.
Yeah.
A trilogy. And how far are you on with the trilogy? Are you well into?
I'm editing book 2 now, so that's very well advanced. And
because it felt to me like you're. I don't think this is a spoiler. I don't think it is. No, it's not. That from your main character is very moral.
Yes.
And it felt to me like that he's gonna. Yeah.
Having his Walter White arc.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
right.
tragedy, isn't it? And I love a tragedy. How much of you is in that character, or are you in the narrator? Because I think we do put ourselves into stuff.
Definitely, a lot. I think ultimately, that sort of, when I started as a lawyer and I was training as a lawyer, you get taught everything, and you do the use case, and everything is kind of your bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and this is the law and all the rest of it. But I spent sort of 10 years litigating in London, and you sort of come to learn that people can just get away with just about anything, if they want to, especially if you've got the money. If you can make something difficult, expensive, and administrative to litigate, so much so that it becomes not worth doing, even if you've been absolutely wronged, it won't happen. One of our first pieces of advice will be, it's going to cost you more to litigate this than you've lost in the first place. And that was kind of depressing in some ways. So,
I can't think of any other fantasy courtroom dramas. Did you have like a moment where you thought, hang on, hang on, I've got a new thing here. I mean, I no doubt they exist. I'm not quite as widely read in fantasy as a lot.
No, I don't. If you're honest with me, I don't know. I've not come across another one. I don't read a gigantic amount of fantasy either. Probably more than the average person, for sure.
Yeah.
But no. To be fair, it was the book I was going to write. Respective. Yeah. I mean, you must have had a similar thing with the bone ships, right? I mean, fantasy sailors is not a done thing as far as I'm aware.
No, and just as the first book was about to come out, someone in the industry said, "Yeah, I'm surprised to let you do that because generally, just naval books just die a death."
Gosh.
Like, oh.
Oh, good.
You could have told me that at the end of the 3 books, and just
right.
Not now.
I just signed up for.
Yeah, the timing of that, like a week before release, maybe, but it's done all right, and it was like my baby, my kind of, this is what I really want to do.
Yeah.
Mind you, so was the Winter Kingdom, Fox. I love murder mysteries and crime and a courtroom drama. And one of the things that I like about what you've written is that I struggle with very I've got to be really careful here so I don't offend people. Very fantasy. I used to really like sort of incredible magic and people flying around and all things like that. And now I like it to feel like I'm reading history. And that's what I felt when I was reading Justice of Kings. And hopefully, I mean, the bunch is meant to feel like somebody's telling you a myth in a pub, like telling you or an inn. A fantasy, it's an inn.
It's a very the Bone Ships, I thought, was a very sort of striking novel in the way that you write it. It's a very colourful, and I could picture it all very well as I was reading it. When they sort of the flick the paint as your little kind of nod, and all the little superstitions that they had, and I loved all the little bits and pieces of lingo, and there was no real hand holding in that regard. It was like reading the first. The first book is called Master and Commander, isn't it? I mean, there's no kind of hand holding at all. It's like there's about a page or two of like when Maturin is telling. No wait, Aubrey's telling Maturin about how shit works, and then you're on your own after that.
Yeah, and, I love that. That's what I wanted to do. I like that feeling of you're reading it with absolutely no idea what's going on. Then suddenly you think, oh, that's near the front.
I've heard that
that's
word
somewhere
before.
Near the front. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I thought it was great.
I like discovering things in a book.
Yeah, and it's a Bildungsroman, as we now know. A coming of age story, or Joron. But was that always planned as a trilogy or a longer series, or did you just have the one in mind?
No, that was always planned as a trilogy, and because after your first trilogy, if people are interested, what tends to happen is either you write another book or you put in a pitch for this is what I want to write, and bless Jenny, my editor, I sent her like a 5-page prose poem. Rather than actual synopsis, I was just like,
thanks,
just to give you a feel of what it'll sound like. And she was just like, okay, but you have to put in sort of a synopsis of the next 2 books as well, so they have an idea. And, so I always knew the very end of it, and I always know the very end of where I'm going, kind of the emotional arc of the characters through the entire trilogy, which is really useful. And then I make the rest up as I go along.
Of course, you just know that Orbit have been stung with some absolute breakneck second book that's just light years apart, and now they insist on a summary of the second and third books just so that they know everything is going to be fine. I think James told me a story. James Long, he's my editor. He told me a story about when they had read this fantastic first book, and then the second book, first draft of it was like, and then aliens landed, and he was like, "No, you cannot do this. Like, absolutely not." Kind of strike it from the record.
Yeah, I'd be there for that. I'd be like, I'm here for aliens.
It's very Harry Potter, isn't it?
Yeah, I wanted to ask. Oh God, I love those books.
Yeah,
Harry Potter, that was World War III books. Yeah, and it's World War II, but lizard people.
But with aliens.
Yeah.
What a great series.
Yeah, joyous. I read that in the library when I used to do a job I hated, and I'd sneak out and go to the library.
Nice.
And then my bus was always delayed back because I was reading books.
Yeah. I found all 4 on a second-hand shop underneath Waterloo Bridge. I was like, I'm gonna have them. This was a couple of years ago, but I'd seen them in a post office as a child. Anyway, it was very boring, but I love those books.
When you were writing it, because a crime, it's really weird because after having written the assassin books, which are up there in my vanity, and then these are not crimey at all, and the story is very straightforward. And it was really weird because it felt empty when I was writing it. I was thinking, there's not enough going on in these. There's
really,
because the crime for me, a crime novel is like cogs. A hole has to interlink, and everything means something in it.
That's right.
It's foreshadowing one person, it's throwing you a red herring. Did you plot that out quite extensively, or were you just like, let's see?
The book certainly went through several iterations. Weirdly, if you really drill down into it, Justice of Kings is a book about marine fantasy insurance fraud. which is the crime at the core of it, and a lot of people didn't really catch on to that.
Why didn't they put that on the back? I don't understand.
I don't know. No one's blurbed along those lines for some reason. I mean, yes, is the answer. The way I approach it, and I'd be interested to hear how you approach it as well. Is when you have a crime, I start with setting out what has actually happened. So, like, this is the bad guys, and this is what they've done from start to finish in like a page. So I know exactly what it is at any given time, that they are guilty of. And then you can see, once you've got that written out chronologically, the kind of cross-pollination from that into your protagonist's storyline. So they find out this piece of information, and then they find out that piece of information, and that's leading to that. And so that's the way I kind of approach it, because otherwise you're making all kinds of mischief for yourself if you don't get it straight quite early doors. And book 2, I was even more. With book 2, I wanted to keep the investigative element, because I think that's the most interesting part. And so there's another one. It's kind of like a murder mystery, but not quite. And it's not the focus of the book, or it is not the focus of the whole book, the second one. But I wanted to keep an investigation in, and in that one, it was even more complicated because there's so many more moving parts. And you're right, everything that you introduce has to have some kind of significance, even if it's to have no significance, if you know what I mean. And so the planning process is quite intense, I found, in a way that other books I've written haven't been. I mean, you're not a lawyer or a policeman, I mean, what's
I decided not to bother going to school because I was going to be a rock star.
Okay.
And that didn't happen. I didn't become a rock star. So I did a succession of terrible, awful, soul-destroying jobs while being a terrible musician.
Right.
And then eventually thought, oh, I really like books. Maybe I should try and write books. So I had to teach myself.
What's your?
No, I was a bass player because it had less strings. That was my entire decision-making process. Yeah, well, no, that was a bit advanced for me, and I was rubbish. I couldn't stay in time. I couldn't do any of that. But I had great hair, so I was in quite a lot of bands.
Hair is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, it's good. Isn't it? Did anything, and then I had to teach myself English, which I think is why I refer to as a voicey writer, which basically means I'm making it up. Yeah, it means I'm just making it up. So go write whatever I fancy. But I've always loved a murder mystery. Like Agatha Christie are a really early influence on something I'd read all the time, in Sherlock Holmes, and I could feel Sherlock Holmes in Justice of Kings. There was
it's interesting, isn't it? People have said that, but I didn't consciously set out to do a Sherlock Holmesy type thing. I was more into a kind of like a, I guess almost like it's like a CJ Sansom character, or like a Name of the Rose, or
I could feel
Eisenhorn.
Name of the Rose was a starting point for the Assassin books, and Eisenhorn is such a good book.
That's fantastic. I actually think I prefer Ravener, which is slightly controversial. I don't know if you've read those ones.
Yeah, I liked Eisenhorn more than Ravener. I liked them both. But there's a new Eisenhorn one just come out, I think.
Magos.
Yeah.
That was a couple of years ago. He's released another version of it, I think, recently in an annotated manuscript. But that was a big influence as well. But sorry,
me too.
We were talking about you. So I was just wondering about when you are writing your crime fiction, like, is that all just research then, and you having to kind of books and articles and things? And
no. When I'm writing, are you talking about my evil twin, RJ Dark?
I am wondering how you write your crime.
It's much easier for me to write crime than it is to write fantasy.
Yeah.
Because if you write a crime novel and you say they went in a pub,
that's
all you need to say. People know what it is straight away. But if you write a fantasy novel, you have to keep track of everything. Everything is different, and everything's different. There's a different law and different gods, and people dress differently, and the way they think is different. So it's much easier to do that. But I do, but I don't really plot or plan my fantasy. I just write it.
Oh, really?
I do kind of plan. I do what you do. I write down who did it and why. That's my starting point when I'm writing a crime novel. And then I introduce characters, and I usually know what they're hiding, because that's what is interesting by each person.
a sort of proper, honest to God murder mystery.
Yeah,
Could be anybody.
yeah. But
It's interesting when I first started entering the publishing world, and I was sort of I had to have conversation with Harry, who's my agent, and in my head, fantasy was like, this very, very well selling. You did very well. Sold loads of copies around the world. And he was saying, no, not really.
no.
Excuse me. He was saying that it's crime. Like if you want to make the big bucks, which is this is why I went into fantasy writing, you've got to write crime. And I was amazed by that. Not because and I think crime is bad, but to the contrary. But there is so much of it. You go into any bookshop and the crime section is gigantic, and you go to an airport and it's all crime, and you go to crime is everywhere, and I see it advertised at the train stations in London on posters and stuff, and I'm thinking surely every single crime must have been done by now, like a million times, and so when you were I know that you write crime fantasy as well as RJ Dark or RJ Darker.
Yeah.
But was it not? Because I reckon I've got a crime novel in me as well. But was it not slightly daunting to think, God, what am I bringing anything fresh to this genre? Has it not been done before? Because that's as a whole.
You're giving me a lot more credit for thinking than I actually ever do. I literally have an idea and think, right, I'm going at this. Age of Assassins, my first novel that sold.
First trilogy, yeah.
I'd written a big science fiction novel that didn't quite sell. It got some people said, "Oh, it's interesting," but it didn't sell. And then I kind of, when you're on submission, I don't. People listening in, if you're right, there's kind of a big period where all you can do is wait, and you don't know whether to write the second book or do something.
It might
else.
Be a waste of time.
Yeah, and kind of it was like being held in the traps, and I wanted to write, and as soon as they came back and said no, my agent said, "Look, we're really sorry that we've not sold this." I was like, "Well, cool, fine." I wasn't upset. I was just like, "Good, I can write now." And the idea for Age of Assassins just was fully formed in my head. And I wrote it in 6 weeks. And
God.
It was bang through it. And it's more or less the same book, apart from we added some stuff at the end. We added a battle.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened to Justice of Kings. You're basically reading the first draft, but then we added a battle at the end as well.
Yeah. Did you get there's a talk you get in fantasy readers will want a battle. You can't just have them say it was him and then they escape. I say, no, you got to have a battle. Okay. So we
got to contrive to have some kind. To be fair, like battle, I think completely changes the whole direction of the trilogy. I do like it a lot, but it initially ended in the courtroom.
Yeah, that's. I think because that's the core of it, and that's what you as the writer see. Because when Ed sold Age of Assassins, I said, "Oh, it's a fantasy whodunit," and he went, "No, it's epic fantasy."
Ed is epic fantasy done it.
Yeah, and I went, why isn't it fantasy? Because epic fantasy sells.
That's it. Honestly,
but the crime. Sorry.
No, you go on.
The crime novels, Mal and Jackie are easier for me to write, and I can write one in 2-3 months at most.
And how long are they? They presume must be much shorter.
About between 70 and 90,000 words.
I see. Rattle through that.
Yeah, it's really. They're the characters that have been with me longest. I've probably had a version of them for about a decade.
Okay.
And it's when you have a book that you keep trying to write and failing at.
Yeah.
They were that, and I realized I was writing like book 3 or 4 in the series, and I needed to go backwards. And once I did that, I was like, "All right, I'm off."
Interesting. The book I have, the ultimate book. One day I'm going to get into the shelves. Is I've actually written most of it already. It's called Prophet. It's about a ex space fighter pilot, and he's now living in basically like a hermitage as a kind of diplomat. And he's like looking back on his life, but there's also like a kind of mystery going on as well. It's my Fallen Dragon. It's like if you read Peter Hamilton's Fallen Dragon, which I think is the best example of a self-contained space opera. It's about 600 pages, all one story. It's fantastic. Like, I recommend it to everybody I can. It's quite an old book now. But that to me is like the gold standard of one-off epic space opera. And I want to do one of those before I die, even if I have to self-publish it.
Yeah, I do too, because I love Ian Banks.
Oh, me too.
I just adore his science fiction. And Orbit turned down my science fiction novel with we already have Ian Banks, we don't need another. Which I was just like, you can tear me down with that quite happily.
Yeah, fair enough. And also we've got Ken MacLeod as well. So
yeah, I met Ken MacLeod. I was a bit starstruck when I met Ken MacLeod.
Yeah, I bet.
Cloud. And but it's really weird because I went back to that novel. I thought I could just like spruce it up and maybe release it as a stopgap between trilogies, give me a bit of a break. And I hated it. I was just like, no,
really,
this isn't. Yeah, just like no.
How interesting.
I need to write something new in space.
What's your favorite? Which is your favorite culture novel then?
I like to read Consider Phlebos and Look to Windward together.
Really?
Because they're a duology loosely.
Right. Of course, because it's the second one's after the Iron War, isn't it?
Yeah. And at the end of it just never fails tears. And my wife just goes, "You're reading that book again, aren't you?"
Honestly, and same. Especially with Look to Windward, I don't think I was as emotional at the end of any of the other ones. I love Look to Windward. I think it's fantastic. I think as a reading experience, I think Use of Weapons is definitely one of my favorites. Just to
what are you doing? How did you do this again?
Just the ending of that completely blew me away.
I'll have to go.
And the ending is the beginning. Sorry, go on.
I've never managed to finish Fearsome Engine though.
I did finish that. That was difficult. It's not I couldn't get that's not a culture. That's one of his standalone. I love Against Dark Background because they have those it's Fearsome Engine. Sorry, they have those gigantic buildings, don't they? Like the South Volcano Room or whatever it is, and it's like this enormous palatial, and they're like driving tanks through it and stuff. And I thought
Fearsome Engine. I was just
visually, it was extremely striking.
Yeah. And it's really weird because I've read Ridley Walker and I really liked it. And Fearsome Engine is an echo of Ridley Walker, but I just couldn't get on with it. It's really weird. But I should tell people that they can ask questions. You type them into the thing. I think there's 2 questions. I'm gonna.
Nope, it's just Dave saying he really enjoys Against Dark Background, which is absolutely correct too. It's a great book.
Yeah, no, there is 2 questions, and it's 22. So I can't see one of them. Yeah, if you look at the bottom,
there we go.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
I'll read the first one. Asking for a friend, but do you reckon the best authors currently writing in the genre are all from Yorkshire? From Richard Ford?
I do, probably because Richard. I myself am from Yorkshire as well. As is RJ. It's much more obvious from him.
I think you probably went to a better school than I did.
I suspect I might have done.
Yeah, my school was just glad to see me gone. They were like, when I stopped turning up, they didn't bother. They would say, you weren't really trying.
Yeah, no, I was born in
Tchaikovsky. Oh, yeah, posh over there. Is that Harrogate way?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was actually, to be fair, it was. I mean, Harrogate's lovely, but I actually lived on RAF bases when I was growing up. RAF living.
That is why you've got an airline pilot's voice. Clearly, that was the first thing I said.
Yeah, and I've got a bit of a cold as well, to be fair.
And we've got Adrian Tchaikovsky as well in just.
He's Leeds way, isn't he?
Yeah, 20 minutes away from me is Adrian. We meet up for lunch every so often.
Ah, nice.
Offensively good writer.
I read Children of Time and was blown away by that. Yeah, but I really wanted there to be a big. This is slightly spoilery, but when there wasn't the big human spider battle, I was like, "Come on!"
I was so glad because I was like,
I was like, "Oh, please let book 2 with this spider-human war. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And
You
then,
get a bit more of
I
that
was
in
like, oh,
book 2, but
go on,
it's
sorry.
octopuses in book 2.
I know it's not quite.
Yeah.
It goes in a different direction, doesn't it? It's a
Yeah.
different group of aliens and stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's really good.
I mean,
And the spiders are in it, though.
Are they?
Yeah, the spiders are in it. They're kind of there's a
Okay.
human spider federation, and they work together. And they meet the octopuses.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
I put Adrian onto the book he used as research for his octopuses, and he has still not paid me any royalties, despite the fact that
Son of a bitch.
I know, so cool.
So the answer to Richard's question is yes. Hello, Richard.
Yes,
Hello,
Richard.
They are all the best writers are from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
For Richard,
I mean, all the best people, really.
Well, I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that. When you were coming up with a fantasy lawyer, what thoughts went into deciding his arcane powers? The answer is, I wanted to think about exactly that. What powers would an investigator have? And so I thought, if the law and the enforcement of it is ultimately the search for the truth, then you would want a power a bit like the Bene Gesserit voice, which compels people to, eventually reveal their minds. So that's where the Emperor's voice came from. It was the idea to compel someone to speak the truth, or certainly what they believe to be the truth. And then I thought, what else? And necromancy is the other obvious one. If you have a corpse and then you can just go, who killed you? And they go, it was that guy. Case closed. So...
It could have been a very short book if you'd handled it badly.
That's a really good point. And, obviously, once you give them these powers, and Justice has other powers, so Justice August, she's able to see through the eyes of animals. And so, if you could create a sudden army of witnesses, for example, every bird or insect or fox or wolf, whatever, you can kind of use them. That's fantastic. But the real challenge was to come up with limitations on all of those powers in a way that felt natural, because otherwise, you're absolutely right. You'd be like, why can't he just solve this crime? He's got these powers to do. And so you obviously read the book, so you know how it sort of plays out. But in the first couple of chapters, I wanted to have the use case. This is what happens in a normal scenario. Von Volt goes to a village, he uses the Emperor's voice, he gets to confession, he goes and enforces the law. And so we can see in the first chapter or two how things are supposed to go. And then for the rest of the book, we see when things go wrong. And that's where the interesting stuff is.
Quite just on the subject of animals, I hope you noticed that I've got a wallaby here in honor of your Australian life.
Sort of like a fox corpse bride, is that?
Yeah, no, this is Wanderer albino wallaby.
Oh, with wings.
Yeah, with wings.
They're lovely.
Yeah, and a hat.
That's only moderately horrifying.
Yeah, there's much worse, but the camera's facing the wrong way.
For RJ, how do you really feel about RJ Dark?
Oh, RJ Dark's a monster. He's like everything that's good about me turned around 90 degrees. Do you know the worst thing about RJ Dark is my wife? She's like, the fantasy books, she's just like, yeah, no, not going near those. But she loves the RJ Dark books. She came in and was actually cross with me that there wasn't another one. She's reading the absolutely untouched second draft of the third book now because she didn't have. She's just like, I'm going to read more of them. So so he's awful. Yeah, he's stolen my wife. He's just taken everything from me. Really, he's a monster.
He's more handsome.
Yeah, he's more handsome. He's more edgy, far more edgy.
He's got more friends. Plays the bass better.
He does. He's an extremely good bass player. Yeah,
and he plays the guitar.
Everything. He practices. My little boy plays the guitar. He's really good at it. Yeah. Yeah, and he looks more rock and roll than I do. It's just it's offensive. Just like, how dare you? Who is? We're down to quarter of an hour. I could just sit and chat with you, Richard. Why did you have to go to Australia?
This is the danger of these talks, isn't it? Yeah. It's gone for hours and hours.
Yeah. Who is your detective of choice?
my detective of choice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
police officer.
A fictional.
Yeah. Well, maybe
It's got.
not.
I mean, it's got to be one of either Eisenhorn or Ravner. I mean, I cannot overstate how much I love those books, and I don't know how well they are known in the broader sort of science fiction fantasy community, because obviously they're Black Library fiction, which is the publishing arm of Warhammer 40,000. And I read them when I was in my late teens. They used to have Black Library fan fiction forums, like official ones, before they closed them down. Back when we had forums, I used to write loads on there. I mean, thinking back to it, it was effectively a letter writing workshop. And so I was on a huge kind of Black Library bent at that time. And, Dan Abnett is a fantastic writer. And I think the Warhammer 40,000 universe, one done right, and he does it right, is can be just such a rich tapestry. And to set an investigation, what is effectively a murder mystery within that world was just so good. And obviously, Eisenhorn, much like Von Vol, enjoys unlimited authority. He's a solo operator, and can do basically anything, including destroying entire planets.
Yeah.
And so, I think they're fantastic. I recommend them to everybody, but I'm always surprised how few people have really kind of heard of them, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of because loads of my friends play Warhammer, and it's not really my thing. And
sure.
And one of my friends said, I can make you like Warhammer, and I was like, well, go on then. He gave me Eisenhorn, and I was like, yeah, right. This is genuinely a great book. And Warhammer, the books are very up and down, but
it's a very checkered library of novels for sure. I think some of them are just effectively like tie-ins to the game, looking to kind of push a profit.
Have you ever read I think they're hard to get hold of, but Ian Watson wrote some Inquisitor books right at the start of Warhammer, and the first one, I didn't know what Warhammer was. I got the book, and it wasn't until I read Eisenhorn that I linked the two.
Right.
He's one of the most startlingly imaginative things I've ever read, and I read all three, and then the third didn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, and then it turned out they'd said you have to link it to this campaign.
Right.
So unless you played it, it was just like a book. It was like
nonsense.
But they are. I think they're out of print now, but they're amazing books.
They used to, I think, right back in the start, like in the kind of 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, when they were just launching Black Library, they had these great writers, and they were just basically writing whatever they wanted. Dan Abnett wrote most of the Warhammer canon that exists in its current form. And so you do get these like strikingly original novels where people just get tabula rasa, and they can do whatever they want. So
I was asked if I wanted to go, and every idea I put forward, they just not really what canon. I was like, oh, everything.
Adrian's done one. Adrian did
Gene
Steele Cult's book, didn't he, recently?
Yeah. The thing is that as soon as somebody says to me, "You can't do this," my immediate thought is, "I'm going to do that." Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Which doesn't help if somebody asks you to write IP stuff, because you have to obey their rules.
Well, that's it. I like to think I'm enough in the guts of the 40,000 universe that I could probably do it. I always wanted, my career trajectory in my head was, I wanted to write like my own long-running military science fiction, widely beloved, like Gaunt's Ghosts type thing. And I started one a few years ago, back when I was self-publishing, and I wrote one called Earth Remembers, which was kind of like a diesel punk World War II in the solar system type pulp fiction. And it just tanked. And like, it just got no sales, it was like sub 10 or something.
Self-publishing is so hard, though.
It is. Yeah. And I had, but the thing is, I had some success with it. I'd done a science fiction trilogy, which had done actually pretty well. And so I was like, oh, I'm obviously like the second coming of Jesus when it comes to writing. Let me do this passion project. And it just crashed and burned. And I
But
was
you're a
like,
Sunday Times bestseller now.
I am.
That's Sunday Times bestseller. You're gonna have
I
that
am a
tattooed
Sunday
on
Times
you.
bestseller. Yeah, that was surreal.
Yeah,
Dropped like a
brilliant.
stone for week 2 though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter though. Yeah, it'll just go on every single one of your books from now on.
Oh,
Sunday Times bestseller.
that's it.
Yeah,
That's it. It's already on the Amazon.
Yeah.
It's on my Twitter profile. It's everywhere. Even if I never do it again in 30 years' time, it does not matter.
It's brilliant.
You've
But,
so the Robert Holdstock Award. That's the British Science Fiction Fantasy Association. Sorry, British
Fantasy
Fantasy
Society.
BFS. Sorry, I'm thinking of the
Yeah.
BSFWA or something. There's another one, isn't there?
Yeah. I
That must have
find it.
been. Is there a cash prize that comes with that?
No.
Oh,
And I think if ever I win a cash prize, I give it to charity anyway. I don't.
oh, really?
I don't. I'm a bit weird. I'm freaked out by awards. I kind of.
Really?
It's part of me going, you can't judge art. It's weird. And I didn't know I'd won it until my agent rang me to tell me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not. It's too stressful. I don't want anything to do with it. And there was 3 steps in our entire flat.
Right.
And he rang me at exactly the moment I was on those steps, and I fell down them. It's like you've been watching and waiting. Just when should I do it? Now! Send the text. But it was lovely, and you know, you'll have to. I don't hold the awards, but you also have to pry it out of my cold dead hands.
Of course.
So
yeah. That'll be in your Pharaoh's tomb with you, along with all the bone ships.
And it's really weird because it shows the trajectory you come at things that Mythalgo Wood, which I'm aware of, and Robert Holdstock wrote, and it's tremendously respected, was not a book I'd read or meant much for me. And then I found out he wrote The Dark Wheel, which is the book that came with the original Elite game for the Commodore 64.
Right.
And I was just like, whoa, that book changed my life. That was just like, whoa. I loved that book because I was properly like, oh, amazed. Because it turns out you can't get that book anymore because I spoke to his widow and she said they're trying to get hold of it to be able to print it, but it's stuck in rights hell. But
I hate that.
So I was
just let it go.
Yeah, but
release it into the ether. What was he?
Yeah.
So that was obviously one of your kind of formative novels, like growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, what was there? Was there ever a kind of a watershed novel where you were like, I suddenly like genre fiction now?
I don't think so. I mean, there was a lot of books in our house when I was growing up, like a lot of poetry, and I was always surrounded by it. And I read like all the fantasy classics, like Wheel of Time and the Belgariad and all of that. But I was always skint, so I only read books that were in the second-hand shops. So I've like read book 2 and book 6 of things and never read the entire lots of my reading is really patchy. Watership Down is the novel that had the biggest effect on me. Just like, it totally blew my mind that you could do something that emotionally investing in its rabbits. And the entire story is some rabbits go somewhere. That's all there is. And it blew my mind. And then sort of later on, there's a crime novel called LA Requiem by Robert Grace, American crime novel. And he does a thing where he tells it from 3 points of view, and the chapters get shorter as the book goes on until you get right to the end. And
that's very cool.
Like paragraph. And that sort of made me read that, and Use of Weapons made me rethink about how you can structure books.
Yes, definitely.
And mess about with it and stuff like that.
Amazing.
But I don't have any loyalty to a particular genre. I'm not.
No.
I consider all clothes for writing. It's writing that I like. It's not a genre. I'm never going to write literature. That's not sort of really. I've never got up to that level of reading.
Haute literature.
Yeah.
No, they're always very snobby, aren't they?
Yeah. I do like Cormac McCarthy.
I do as well.
Yeah. I think enjoyed's the wrong word, but
Blood Meridian I read years ago, and that was a striking novel for sure.
I've got a theory about that.
Oh,
It's
go on.
wildly spoilery. No, because it's wildly spoilery. So if anybody's
no,
here,
go on.
we've got another thing.
No, we haven't.
Oh, all the best book bloggers are from Yorkshire as well. Yeah, they are, Dave.
They are.
Yeah, they are. It's true. It's true. Actually,
people.
careful. Apart from the ones that aren't, because there's a lot of book bloggers. Just don't upset the book bloggers. They might come after me. They're scary.
They will. Bone Ship's going to tank on Goodreads now.
Yeah. Has it been fantastic? Because when Age of Assassins came out, it was because we went from having like nothing. We were absolutely skinned. To suddenly like we got an advance and more money than I'd ever seen in my life. It wasn't a big advance, but to me, it was ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
And it was like, it doesn't matter if this doesn't do anything because I had the best year of my life.
Amazing.
And I just joy. And I still wake up every morning to write. I'm just like, oh, I'm a writer. I do it for a living.
Yes.
Are you lawyering and writing?
No,
now?
I was.
No. Yeah.
We moved to Sydney October. So I haven't lawyered since then, but I was up until then. And it was extremely difficult to juggle it all because I was very busy with litigating and I was having to write late into my evenings. So that was tough. But now I'm writing full time. It was obviously an extraordinary process, and it was for other people not a particularly expiring one because it was very quick. I got the agent quite quickly. I got the deal quite quickly. Orbit preempted it within a month, and the advance was very sizable. So it was all kind of a bit of a whirlwind, and I'm not sure I still really processed it. And then there was the weirdest thing about being traditionally published, I found, is that there's just so much nothing, weeks and months of just nothing at all. And I think having gone from self-publishing and enjoying the immediacy of that, once you finish a book, you publish it, get a cover together, and you're in control of the whole process. With traditional publishing, sold the book in like August 2019, I think. 2020 it must have been. August 2020. And it's only just come out. And so as much as I am, living the dream, etc., which I am, this is to have one book published was my life's ambition. And now I've achieved basically all of the writing milestones in the space of several months. It's bestseller and all the rest of it. So obviously it's been fantastic, but it's been so long in coming, literally 18 months or something, 2 years. And in that time, I've seen ARCs and, the artwork, and boxes of ARCs have come in, and then boxes of books have come in. And so, and I'm not complaining, this is all fantastic, but there's not one big kind of, publication, here it is, it's spread out over such an amazingly long time that there's no even publication week, when the book actually came out, which is about 2 weeks ago. It's like, I've got 3 boxes of these books in my house and I've had them for about a month. So it's all like a weird anticlimax at every stage, which sounds awful to say.
Really weird, because a lot of people get excited about the physical books when they arrive. And I don't have that because for me, the excitement is in the creation of it.
Yeah.
And an actual book it's a dead thing to me. It's somebody else's now. I'm done with that. It's finished. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not,
yeah.
I can't change it or alter it.
No.
Have you had the thing yet where nothing happens for months and everything happens all at once? Like copying it, and you got to finish the other thing and do this thing, and then there's artwork, and you're like,
You know what? Not really. The thing that keeps happening, which is slightly frustrating, is I'll hand a book in, and I'll be like, right, great, I'm going to crack on with the next one. I've got some time now. I'll get about that crucial kind of 30 to 40,000 words in on the first draft, and then and then the edits will come back of the previous book, and then I'm at the compartment, put all that to one side, and go back to the book that I'd just mentally completely written off. And so I find that, and then you have to do the copy edits. So then you have to do the copy edits again. I find the copy edits of all the processes. Copy editing I find the most frustrating. I stepped 90% of it.
I was because I didn't know how. I don't know anything about English. When I got my first copy of it, I was just terrified. I was just like, I wrote to my editor and said, "Do I have to agree with all this stuff?" Because my voice is gone. It's
it.
Flat. And
it cuts away all of the. I thought the copy editing process. When that happened, I thought that was basic because it was like the really nitty gritty, grammatical, syntax, and it was like a sterilization of the novel. And I was like, I don't like almost any of this. It's robbing all of the little interesting flares and things that you've done which you liked. But I thought, interestingly, that very involved process was going to be what the editing process was.
Yeah.
The editing process was much more broad brush.
Yeah, it's just can you make this?
As a copy edit, it was like,
yeah,
which you hated.
I quite like the way the copy edit makes me think about it, and the especially the copy editor for the Saxon who's on for the last two, absolutely locked into my thinking with it, and it was such an easy process to go through it with him. Nazi was telling us we've got 5 minutes left.
Nuts, bloody hell.
Yeah. You can only say that because you're a whole ocean away. I
am.
I won't question it. Yes,
she can. She's like that thing. What's that weird on internet thing? It's like SCP or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where they have those you'd probably love it. There's this whole thing on the internet called SCP. I'm sure it's something like that. It's basically like it's like a wiki, and anybody can enter, and it's like these horrific creatures that each have their own horrific power. And one of them is something that can find you at like basically at light speed anywhere on the planet. And they put like some guy in like a bathysphere and down in like Marianas Trench or something, and then if you look at the photo of this thing, it comes to kill you, and then they track it as it comes to get him.
I'm not going to look at
Nazis
that.
like that.
Scary. Yeah. Nazi is our publicity officer, and she's terrifying. We just do what she says.
I don't, but only because I'm on the other side of the planet.
Yeah. One day you'll come back.
I know I will.
She'll be there at the airport.
She'll be waiting for me at my house.
Yeah,
she probably has my address. Orbit has my address.
I think we have to start wrapping up. It's been lovely speaking to you. Yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you. And
you too, mate.
And we talk on Twitter. Yeah. If you have any other questions, ask them very quickly in the chat.
Very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
I've got breakfast to eat. I can hear my two small children next door making all kinds of noise.
Yeah, my small child's on a residential. He's away.
Oh, right. Borstal.
So
nice.
Yeah. Well, he's enjoying it because we've sent him numerous messages saying, "Are you having fun?" He hasn't replied to anything. So
perfect.
He's just like,
let's go one of two ways, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm away from you when I'm happy. I buy The Justice of Kings. It's a great book. That's what I'm saying to anybody watching this. If you haven't,
Bone Ships is a great book. I plan to read your Age of Assassins trilogy as well. It sounds exceptional.
They're more sort of Agatha Christie. Oh, my favourite detective we've got onto Miss Marple. She's a monster. I love her.
Miss Marple. I'm not. Yeah. She's not the one from Murder She Wrote, is she?
No. That's like a nice version of Miss Marple. But every other detective, sort of classic detective, at some point finds somebody who's done something bad for understandable reasons. I think even Sherlock Holmes gives somebody 24 hours. Right. Miss Marple is none of that. There's no pity. She's absolutely a machine. She's a monster. I love her. Yeah. She's wonderful. I love Miss Marple.
I read Hannah of the Baskervilles. I think it's a fantastic book. This is my favourite Sherlock Holmes. But apart from that, I've not read like many of the classic detective novels. I really feel like I should.
I think they've aged. They've noticeably aged, and I suspect a better way to enjoy Agatha Christie now is on television.
Yeah, it's the way with all things, isn't it?
Poirot, the thingy as Poirot, that is basically nailed it for me. I can't.
Oh, old
Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh.
Thingy. No, not Kenneth Branagh. The other
Oh,
one.
really? Oh, the original Poirot.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. Oh dear. I'm losing
Think
it.
about it.
Yeah. I'll remember it just the second.
This is what the punters have come for.
Yeah,
Come on.
they've come for me looking vague. Yeah. Vague and a bit lost. David
Is it David
Suchet?
Suchet?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I just remembered. Yeah.
Come on,
Thank you.
mate.
We didn't just read that off the chat or anything.
No, I know. That's why I saw it.
Yeah, David Suchet. That is part of me. It's like the book came alive to me. But, yeah.
Got it.
What's the best thing you've read recently?
Best thing I read recently. Oh shit! It was the Bone Ships.
No, not me. You can't say that. That isn't me.
It was definitely Piccadilly Street Station by China Miéville.
Yeah,
I love that man's writing. I think he is. If I could steal another writer's brain and put it in my own, it would be his.
Where's he gone? He doesn't seem to release anything for
he hasn't done anything for a few years.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing. It's a shame. Maybe
TV.
he's just done all of the books he wanted to do. What's the best thing you read recently, apart from the Justice of Kings?
I recently finished Taddy Thompson's new book.
Oh, Far from the Light of Heaven. So good.
Far from the Light of Heaven. Yes, yeah, I enjoyed it. He does things with. I expect it to be a murder mystery, and he messes with the form of murder mystery that I found interesting, and it really vexed me. And I'll tell him that.
It vexes me.
Sad.
I'm going to read that one. I really enjoyed Rosewater.
Rosewater was brilliant.
Yeah,
and he's done a crime book called Making Wolf.
He has.
Which is very good as well. Yeah, and it
seems like a really good guy. I was very sad when he left Twitter.
Yeah, but he's a bit like the Candyman. Say his name 3 times, he emailed you.
On that note,
that's Candy Woman.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this event. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. I'm going to end it now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.